morning, good morning. Okay, 5 dysfunctions of a team. Who's read it? Yes? Pat Lencioni says the ultimate responsibility of a leader is to build and maintain a cohesive team. Now, I'm going to go through so much about this book. It's so good. You guys probably won't have to read the book to understand the concepts. However, it doesn't mean you don't read the book, because this is one of those books where it's a story. In fact, all of his books are stories. It's just so easy to see it in action. So one thing is getting the concepts, and the other ones is actually seeing how it flows. And through his story, you'll be able to see all of this. So are you part of a truly cohesive team? Simply put, a cohesive team needs to master 5 behaviors. That's building trust, mastering conflict, achieving commitment, embracing accountability, and focusing on results. Each behavior builds on the previous one. If you don't have the one on the bottom, the next one up isn't going to work as well. So we're going to start with trust. That's the one that's at the bottom. If you don't have trust within your team, trust me, it will not go well, okay? One example of this is Steve Jobs' ability to build trust with his team when he returned to Apple in 1997 after a period of absence. At the time, the company was struggling financially, morale was low, and Jobs quickly got to work rebuilding his team. And one of the first things he did was hold a meeting with all of his employees. During the meeting, he acknowledged the company's problems, and he took responsibility for them, saying that he's the one who actually made the mistakes and put the company in the current state that it's in. The honesty and the willingness to take responsibility, the company's problems, it really helped him build that trust with his team, with the employees. At this point, what he claims was the point where they were all really starting to work together at a much higher level. Jobs also implemented a new product development process that he was going to be able to use with his team, and it was going to encourage collaboration. It was going to encourage teamwork. That was the idea, as opposed to the way he did it before. It was like he did his thing and he said, go, you guys build it. Now it was a collaborative effort. This process involved bringing together small cross-functional teams that were responsible for developing new products, helped break down silos, and foster greater communication and collaboration. Through this, Jobs was able to turn around the fortunes of Apple and build a strong and loyal team that was willing to work together and achieve common goals. So what is trust? Trust is a willingness to be completely vulnerable with one another. So it's not one of those things where it's like, you know, hey man, here's $5. I know you'll pay me back. That's not what that is, right? It's a different type. This is, I believe that you'll be really honest with me, and I believe that you also believe that I'll be really honest with you. Confidence among team members that their peers' intentions are good, and also that there's no reason to be protective or careful around the team. Games like trust fall exercises don't build trust nearly as effectively. How many of you guys seen trust fall exercises? They don't work as well as the stuff we're going to be talking about today.
Why can't you do this to Caroline? I've always held something against her.
Okay. Catherine and I are working on a trust exercise, and she's going to fall and I'm going to catch her. So, step forward just a hair. Put your arms out.
Why can't you do this to Caroline?
Trust me, Catherine. Go ahead and fall. No, you put your leg back. Don't put your leg back. Stand up straight. Put your arms out for me. Now, I'm going to catch you. Okay, I promise. Go ahead and fall. Now see, I'm catching you, but you're putting your foot back. Don't put your foot back.
Maybe you're catching me.
Just a minute, sweetheart. I'll be right with you, okay? Stand right there. Put your arms out.
Daddy!
Catherine!
Oh!
Oh, no!
Ow!
Oh,
Are you
are you
okay?
okay?
Ow!
Is your head hurt?
Yeah.
Sweetheart, are you okay?
Oh!
Oh, no.
Through a failed exercise, trust was probably lost. Better ways to build trust are coming clean about weaknesses, asking for brutal, honest feedback and accepting it as it is, then asking questions around it, personality assessments and exchange of information for a better understanding of how everyone operates. That's a really big one. I think that was really, really good for my team. For my team to know me and how I operate, the way my brain works, and also for me to know them and how their brain works. So when certain things happen, I'm not thinking they're fighting me on stuff, or they don't think I'm fighting them. They just know, like, okay, that's how he thinks, that's how he takes in information, and vice versa. Great example of this is with McKenna, who I'm currently probably spending more time with than anybody else, as McKenna's in the marketing director role, and I'm really wanting to make sure that she's teed up well so she can be as successful as we all know she's going to be. This is McKenna. She started with us actually as an intern even before this, but she became a video producer in 2017 here officially. Now she's a marketing director. But McKenna and I are similar in some ways. We're also different in some ways. We both have the I characteristic on the DISC assessment, but McKenna is higher on the S. I am pretty low on the S. McKenna's not super low on the D, but I am very, very high on the D. And so the I is influence. And so both of us are outgoing. We're both enthusiastic. We're both optimistic. high-spirited, lively. Now, these are all really good things for a person in marketing. So this is good. Marketing, sales, these are all good traits. So one of the things I was really optimistic about with McKenna, because she's got all these things. The challenge, in a meeting, McKenna and I might go off tangent for about 20 minutes. Now, what the S stands for on McKenna's side is she's more even-tempered than I am, accommodating, she's patient, she's humble, she's tactful. On the dominant side, I'm more direct, results-oriented, firm, strong-willed, and forceful. Now, this works in two ways. Number one, it means that not only does she have to understand how I am, and I have to understand how she is, but also it's really good for she to understand how she is, and me to understand how I am. So if I can sense myself being somewhat forceful, I could be like, okay, I'm doing it again. This isn't the way it is supposed to be. This is my highest level of letter here, and it's coming out, and I've got to, harness this thing a little bit because it's taken over. Same thing with McKenna. McKenna can be pretty accommodating, but I think that's just her nature. What she's gotten really good at, as I've wanted to work on my thing, she's worked on this, I've noticed herself actually speaking up a lot more. I've noticed herself not just accepting things for the way it's been given to her, for her challenging things, for her actually putting her ideas in the front. And I thought that's really great growth that I've seen in her. But that's because she knows how she is. So that feeling that she gets where she should be accommodating or she should just let it go, that feeling, it's because you get that feeling, it's easy to think that that's the right thing to do because that feeling lives in you. But now that she knows that this is her letter, this is a feeling that lives in me because this is my wiring, not necessarily because it's what I should be doing. Does that make sense, everybody? Matt's had a lot of growth, mainly on his chin. Matt and I are also, like McKenna, we share similar things. We're also different in other areas. So Matt and I both share the D characteristic. In fact, Matt is very, very, very high D. He's higher D than I am, which means direct, results-oriented, firm, strong-willed, forceful. Now, on this, we work very, very well together. We both just want to get shit done. We both have a very productive conversation, like structure. We know what we got to get done. We know exactly why we're on this call. We know exactly who we have to talk to. None of us are like beating around the bush. It's really great. Matt is a little bit more conscientious than I am on his disc assessment, but he does have I as well. Somebody that doesn't have that would be a lot more reserved at a happy hour at a VIP party. But he's more analytical than I am. He's more reserved, precise, private, systematic, all things that would be great in that 1-2 punch with someone like me. Other ways to build trust. Share professional failures and successes. What hasn't worked for you in your life? What are you struggling with right now, really? Spend more time with each other. I would say McKenna and I have more trust now than we probably have in a while. But why? Because we're spending so much time together as we're developing this role. Get to know each other on a personal level. This is one thing I feel like with people that have been on my team 3-4 years, I've been really able to dig in deeper than most. And that's really great. I know a lot of things that are going on with Matt, that have gone on with Matt. He knows the same thing about me. Patrick, McKenna, I mean, it's great to be able to really dive in. And when you know that, what it does is it humanizes you guys. And so humans make mistakes. So when somebody makes a mistake, you kind of go, okay, well, I get it. You're human. At the end of the day, you got stuff going on in your life too. This is rough. And it's easier because when you don't get on that level, you make assumptions a lot easier. Admitting mistakes, more forthright with information, reduce the amount of gossiping, readily apologized. If you can really start looking at all these things and saying, how can I do more of this on my end, lead by example, how can I also work with my team and say, hey, how can you do more of this on your end too? This is really what we need to do. This is what's going to build trust a lot more than trust falls, and not just trust falls, but a lot of the team building exercises that are out there. I think those exercises are really good for you to see it in a kinesthetic way, but this is what I truly believe builds trust. Trust is not built overnight. It requires shared experiences over time, multiple instances of follow-through and credibility, and an in-depth understanding of the unique attributes of team members. However, with a focused approach, a team can dramatically accelerate the process and build trust quickly. The more concentrated you guys embrace these things, the faster we can get there. If you feel like you're not there or not close yet, if we just kind of take steps at a time, over time, obviously it's going to take a little longer, but if you guys can really focus, say, hey, this is really what we want to build. I want to really get to this by the end of the next 90 days. Then you can get there a lot faster. Without trust, team members conceal their weaknesses and mistakes from one another, hesitate to ask for help or provide constructive feedback, hesitate to offer help outside of their own areas of responsibility, jump to conclusions about the intentions and aptitudes of others, and hold grudges. How many of you guys have made a mistake or had an idea or whatever, said something, and somebody in your team took it completely the wrong way. That was likely due to a lack of trust. With trust, you can admit your weaknesses, mistakes, ask for help, accept questions and input about their areas of responsibility, give one another the benefit of the doubt before arriving at a negative conclusion, and offer and accept apologies without hesitation. So let's see where trust is. Here's what I want you guys to do. Rate each of these 1 through 5. Use your notes. I want you to rate each one of these 1 through 5 so you can see where you stand. So action plan. Number 1 is you want to run a DISC or some sort of a TTI or personality assessment for all key players. Read results out loud and discuss with one another. It's actually a really fun exercise when you do this. So if, let's say, Laurel was in my group and I had to read Laurel's, if I've been working with Laurel already and I'm reading hers out loud and I'm saying Laurel is this, she's going to start laughing. Everyone else in the room kind of starts laughing because I'm literally reading Laurel to a T. It's really fun when this kind of stuff happens. And I think even just that alone starts building trust. Right there, it's such a great exercise. The connection to conflict. When team members build a foundation of vulnerability-based trust, not just the trust that everyone kind of thinks on the surface level, conflict simply becomes an attempt to find the best possible answer. So now we move on to the next level. When there's trust, how team members are able to engage in filtered, constructive debates. Without this trust, conflict can be very toxic. It can be dangerous. It can cause usually one person to walk out of the room not knowing if we're going to see them ever back in the company again. So it's very important you build that first layer. This is not an example of great conflict.
I want to get a slice. You know what I just did? I just walked out that door, saw a couple detectives, and I was about to start bad-mouthing you behind your back. But I stopped myself because my pops taught me that a man who talks behind somebody's back is a coward.
Wow, I actually appreciate that.
Good, because I'm going to tell you directly to your face.
No, you don't have to.
Okay, so what is conflict? All great relationships, the ones that last over time, they require productive conflict in order to grow. It's important to distinguish productive ideological conflict from destructive fighting and interpersonal conflicts or politics. So what does productive conflict have? It's a focus on concepts and ideas and avoids mean-spirited personal attacks. Matt says, attack the problem, not the person. It's a really great way to frame it, right? Because now we know, okay, it's not like, Jeff, it's not you that I don't like, which is why this idea is not going out. The idea, I just don't see being constructive. I don't see this being the thing that we should be working on. It has nothing to do with you. Could have been me that came up with the idea, and in this case, it would be the same result. Conflict is considered very taboo, especially at work. People may spend an inordinate amount of time and energy wanting to avoid the kind of passionate debates that are essential to any great team. Teams that engage in productive conflict know that the only purpose is to produce the best possible solution in the shortest amount of time.
One of the keys to Apple is Apple's an incredibly collaborative company. And we talk about everything we're doing, the whole business. And there's tremendous teamwork at the top of the company, which filters down to tremendous teamwork throughout the company. And teamwork is dependent on trusting the other folks to come through with their part without watching them all the time, but trusting that they're going to come through with their parts. And that's what we do really well. And we're great at figuring out how to divide things up into these great teams that we have and all work on the same thing, touch bases frequently, and bring it all together into a product. We do that really well. And so what I do all day is meet with teams of people and work on ideas and solve problems to make new products, to make new marketing programs, whatever it is.
And are people willing to tell you you're wrong?
Yeah.
I mean, other than snarky journalists. I mean, people that work for you.
Oh, yeah. No, we have wonderful arguments.
And do you win them all? Or?
Oh, no, I wish I did. Oh, see, you can't. If you want to hire great people and have them stay working for you, you have to let them make a lot of decisions, and you have to be run by ideas, not hierarchy. The best ideas have to win.
So,
otherwise, good people don't stay.
But you must be more than a facilitator who runs meetings. You obviously contribute your own ideas.
I contribute ideas, sure. Well, why would I be there if I didn't?
What do you guys think? How many of you guys would like to have a company where that's kind of working? That's the way it's operating, yeah? Great teams don't waste time and energy pretending to be what they're not. They're completely comfortable saying, I screwed up. They're very open to saying your ideas were better than mine, and avoid letting their ego make decisions or dictate feelings. So this is why trust is important. Raising voices, cursing, standing up to make a point, all of these things could affect people differently depending on their childhood or possibly their current home life. Without conflict, teams have boring meetings. They create environments where personal attacks thrive. They ignore conversational topics that are critical to team success. They fail to tap into all the opinions and perspectives of team members. They waste time and energy with posturing and interpersonal risk management. With conflict, teams have lively, interesting meetings. They exploit the ideas of all team members. They solve real problems quickly. They minimize politics. And it also puts critical topics on the table for discussion. We at Loud Rumor do have conflict, and this does live with us, and I love it. It's great. We've had times in the past where we haven't, and it definitely doesn't go the way we want it to go. So I've been able to see both. And I got to tell you, this is a lot more fun. The meetings are better. So let's see where our conflict is. Everybody get your notes out, same thing, and I want you to grade 1 through 5 on where you believe your team stands on this today. Arguing passionately is absolutely okay as long as the goal is the goal. Attack the problem, not the person. Introduce rumble. So the rumble is a word that we use when we want to be able to get into something. So for example, if Edwin's on my team and I feel like I'm going to get into something that could be he could be sensitive to, but it's something we definitely got to discuss because we got to move forward, I'm going to go, hey, Edwin, with you real quick. Now, what Edwin knows if he's on my team is what this means is we're attacking the and not the, and so now he understands. Now, once you get that down, you can work on commit to decisions. So General Norman Schwarzkopf, Tony Robbins told a really, really good story about him. And so I'm just going to let him tell. I was going to tell you guys myself, and I'm like, Tony Robbins is a really good storyteller. Let him do it.
What makes you a leader is your ability to make a decision. And anybody can make the easy decision. So what makes you a leader is you can make the tough decisions. And what makes you a leader is you make the decision. What makes you a great leader is, I may be wrong, but if I have to wait till everything's resolved, nothing's going to get resolved. Years and years ago, when we had the big Gulf War, General, Norman Schwarzkopf's a friend of mine, who passed away a few years ago. And I used to bring him in to talk about leadership. And one of the first times I ever asked him, I said, how do you define leadership? How do you know when a person's really a leader? And he said, when they can make decisions. And he said, I can remember when he was an assistant to a general. He was responsible for reading all the briefs. And this general is one of the highest generals in the Army. And there was a decision that needed to be made. It had to do with 10 years of going back and forth with the Pentagon, trying to figure out if they're going to go one direction or another. It was a gigantic decision that was going to affect the way the Army was structured, how money was going to be divided, what resources are going to go where. And he said they brought in this group of 20 people in, and they had this 2-hour meeting, and everybody got up and pitched their side of what they thought was right. And at the end, when it was completely done, the general said, has everyone said their piece? He said, yes. He said, do this. It was plan A, or plan B, whatever it was, out of the 3 choices they had. And everybody said, okay, General, saluted him and ran off to go implement this thing. And Schwarzkopf said he was freaking out because he knew there's no way that general could have read everything even he'd read. And this was such a complex piece, and there was only 2 hours, and everybody gave their best. But oh my God, there's so many things to consider. And so he finally got up enough courage, he said, to go to the general and said, General, so he said, permission to speak freely. He said, ease, speak freely. He said, General, there is so much information here, and there's so much here, and no one's really going to know for sure. How the hell could you just make that decision like that? He said, because someone had to make it. He said, because it's been going around for 10 years back and forth and no one being able to make a decision. He said, what if you're wrong? He said, if I'm wrong, we'll find out quicker. And if I'm right, the job will be done. Next question. Right? It's like when you're put in charge, take command.
So how do we achieve commitment around decisions? Clarity around decision and moving forward with complete buy-in from every member of the team, even those who initially disagreed with the decision. So what this means is you have 3 options. You can either agree with the decision, you can disagree, that's okay, but you commit as if you agreed, right? Once we decided this is where we're going, even if you still don't agree that this is the best plan, if we've all decided this is where we're going, we're committing as if we agreed. Or recuse yourself, like, hey, you're out. That's fine. Because we've got to move forward. Consensus sometimes holds people back, holds companies back, holds teams back from being able to move forward because we're waiting for something where everyone's like, yeah, that is the best. You're not going to always find that. So sometimes leaders got to make the final call once he heard everything from his team, whether some people agree or not. We agree, or we can disagree, but we act as if we agreed, as if it was our idea, with that level of commitment. The two greatest causes of lack of commitment, of desire for consensus and the need for certainty. So we talked about consensus, but sometimes people just need to know, especially like your high C's, high S's, they need to be able to see the plan to its fullest in their head come through without any opportunity for this not to work. But in reality, like almost every plan has an opportunity for it to not to work. And the biggest ideas usually have the biggest risks. Also could have the biggest rewards, but those are the ones that scare the S and the C's the most. And it's the one that excites the D's and the I's the most. So if you get those two people in a room, that can cause some strain. Great teams understand that they must be able to commit even when the outcome is uncertain, and not everyone initially agrees. Teams that fail to commit create ambiguity among the team members about direction and priorities. Missed opportunities due to excessive analysis and unnecessary delay. Breeds lack of confidence and fear of failure. Revisits discussions and decisions again and again. Encourages second guessing. A team that commits creates clarity around decisions and priorities. Aligns the entire team around common objectives. Develops an ability to learn from mistakes, moves forward without hesitation, changes direction without hesitation or guilt. Now I want you guys to do the same thing before your team is on the commitment step. So go ahead and rank yourselves 1 through 5 for commitment. Next is embracing accountability. When everyone is committed to a clear plan of action, they will be more willing to hold one another accountable. Accountability has become a buzzword, though. It's so overused with so many different interpretations that it has lost much of its meaning. In the context of teamwork, however, accountability is the willingness of team members to call their peers on performance or behaviors that might hurt the team. There's a very important rule, though. You have to be fantastic at being held accountable and taking ownership, extreme ownership. Otherwise, nobody will call you out, knowing you just can't take it. So how do we be confident and humble at the same time? That's kind of a hard thing to do. It's easy to be confident and arrogant at the same time, but how do we mean humble? Michael Jordan has one of my favorite quotes. Practice like you've never won, play like you've never lost. When you're in the game, when you're on that sales call, when you're on the floor, this is you. You are the best. No one's ever done it like you. Laura, when you're on this stage today, no one's ever given a talk like you. No one. When you're writing your presentation, I am the worst at this thing. But I'm going to be great right now. This is going to be the best presentation. This is going to be great. But you're studying, you're working, you're doing everything you can in practice because you want to be great. I like doing that too. When I'm practicing something in the background, I'm practicing like I am just like, I've got such a long road. I consider the legends in whatever I'm looking to practice. I consider the people that have put in 20 years, 25 years in this thing. And I remember that I'm at the bottom because it number one, it doesn't frustrate me so much when I'm working on it because I know that it'd be arrogant of me to think that I should be as good as somebody who's been doing it for 20 years. They were at this point at 1.2. Everyone at the top started at the bottom, right? But once I'm in the game, yeah, I definitely walk in and you'd think I've been playing for 20, right? I don't care what it is. And that's the same thing. That to me is the way you can remain humble and confident at the same time. And Michael Jordan definitely had that.
I started recognizing like what works and what doesn't, but it wasn't really until Task Unit Bruiser. We'd have training instructors be like, "You guys are the best task unit we've ever seen come through here," and it was interesting to me because we have some amazing guys in this task unit, but I had amazing guys in my last task unit too. So it's not really the talent factor that broke us out. It certainly wasn't that we didn't make mistakes because we made all kinds of mistakes in Task Unit Bruiser and disastrous training operations where we had to come back and revamp our training process and make sure that we dialed in standard operating procedures. Just what training's supposed to be.
Exactly.
And
right? Exactly. That's the difference, really.
Yeah, and that was it. It was this idea that we now call extreme ownership, which is we're going to take ownership of this. And instead of being like, hey, we're going to push back against people that are telling us we need to be better, or we're going to maybe even deny that we're as bad as we are, we're going to take a brutally honest assessment of ourselves. You don't ever tell my guys they're amazing, that's the best one they've ever seen, because that allows us to not get better, to not grow, to get complacent. So we always did that, and I recognized just how powerful that was to our performance. So again, we were never flawless. We made mistakes, but we learned from those mistakes. We got better, we grew all the time, and we were able to run circles around everybody else. as a result and deliver some exceptional performance on the battlefield with that attitude. And that's that mindset and attitude is the game changer. That's why we call the book Extreme Ownership. And it's what we impart to people as we see in the business world. And there's at the end of the day, there's what works, and there's what doesn't work.
In your business, and it's also in your life too, what can you do a little bit better? You attack those problems. You accept the criticism when it comes at you, which is so hard for everyone to do, myself included. You accept the criticism, listen to it, and then you modify it. You make these little iterative changes, and at the end, instead of being a decent task unit, or instead of being a decent person, or instead of running a decent team, you can be the best.
Some of you may have heard me mention in the past, I've been studying Stoicism for now the last few years, and I've really, really enjoyed it. Mark Aurelius is my favorite, and he says, stop wasting time talking about what a good man should be like, and just be one. You ever catch people saying stuff, maybe even you've said it, where like, God, you know, why does he do that? He always thinks he's blah, blah, blah. He always thinks he's this. So continue telling me how a good person should be. But while you're telling me how a good person should be, what are you being right now? So we must also have low expectations of how others should behave. You know, just remember, like, hey, look, there's a chance, Jocko just said in the previous video, like, no one's ever flawless. I don't care what you practice, you're never gonna get to a point where you're flawless at anything. Mark Aurelius also said, when receiving criticism, either the other person is right, in which you have no right to complain, or they're wrong, in which case they're misguided and just made a mistake. Remind yourself how many mistakes you've made in life and then have pity for them. So what does extreme ownership look like when getting feedback, even poorly? Those that are truly want to be great are already great. They crave feedback, no ego. To recap that last video though, because I know that video very well, what he ultimately says is, true winners are looking for the feedback. I want it. I've got people on the team that ask me, what could I have done better? How could I have done that better? And then I'll say, no, it was good. Yeah, but if I had something like what could I have done better? Right? You're asking for it. Now, when you ask for it, when the other person wants to give feedback down the road in the future, what do they absolutely know you're okay with? Real feedback, right? Because they know you've trained them to be okay with giving you feedback because you've asked for it so much. Tiger Woods wants every inch of his swing analyzed. Tom Brady wants every inch of his throw analyzed. Steph Curry wants every inch of his shot analyzed. Holding each other accountable is one of the best ways to develop any team into a world-class team. Team that doesn't call out poor performance, team members lack confidence and are paranoid about what others might not be saying. People feel a sense of unfairness when others perform at a subpar level. Passive-aggressive comments approach and they start to thrive. Team that does call out poor performance, people know what others think so they don't have to waste time and energy wondering. Team members own their shortcomings and accept suggestions, and there is an increased sense of being part of a team. Team that doesn't apply pressure. Outside management or motivation may be needed to reach set goals. People aren't concerned with how their behavior affects their team members, and resentment builds. A team that does apply pressure. Team members feel trusted and respected by their peers. There's an extra prompt to get work done on time, and people feel a responsibility to get things done right. So what I want to know is, let's see where our accountability is. Go ahead and rank your team 1 through 5 for the 4 bullet points below.
Is it a lonely existence? Leadership is lonely. It is, but that's fine.
Listen to me. Leave me stay right there. I want you to go there early. Listen to me. Go there early.
I'm not going to be afraid of confrontation to get us to where we need to go. I think there's a big misconception where people think winning or success comes from everybody putting their arms around each other and singing Kumbaya and patting them on the back when they mess up, and that's just not reality. If you're going to be a leader, you're not going to please everybody. And you got to hold people accountable, even if you have that moment of being uncomfortable.
Matter of fact, put your hands on me. Don't touch me the rest of the script. Put your hands on me.
Look, as a leader, I know at Loudroomer, my goal is not to get people to like me. That's not my objective. It's never my objective. My objective is to make the people on my team successful in our mission. That's it. If I can make them successful and this company successful, then I feel I've done my job. If they don't like how the results have gone out along the way, well, they probably shouldn't have been on the team in the first place. But the goal is not to get people to be like, man, I love Mike. He's a great leader. How many of you guys have had the coach in high school or college where you didn't like him for the first year, and when it was all over, you missed the hell out of him? Anybody? Yeah. Why? Because they push you, they drove you, and they got you to success. They got you to a level where you couldn't have gotten without that person. That was his job. He never had a goal for you to like him. Focusing on results, the ultimate goal of encouraging trust, healthy conflict, commitment, and accountability is to achieve results. Yet one of the greatest challenges to team success is inattention to results. Why is this? Team status. When merely being part of a group is satisfying enough, regardless of the results. Individual status refers to the familiar tendency of people to focus on enhancing their own positions or career prospects at the expense of a team. So, yeah, but how much money can I make now? Well, the company needs to be making more money. Yeah, but I'm doing my job, right? Like, we are on a mission. We, stop with the I. We are on a mission. You want to be I? Go be a contractor somewhere, right? We. You're a part of a we environment. Distractions that keep teams from focusing on results are vague or shifting goals, inefficient processes and structure, lack of drive and urgency, lack of shared rewards, more emphasis on personal goals and team goals, emphasis on career status or progression. The only measure of a great team is whether it accomplishes what it sets out to accomplish. Without that, a team cannot call themselves great. Matt said something at our State of the Company meeting. He said, hey, we did okay last year, but we failed our mission because we had a specific target and we fell short. And he straight up said it, but we failed our mission. We did not do a great job. The people on the team that understood the concept of what Matt was saying, they said, he's right. Like, that's how we get measured as a team. Did you win or not? If the Chicago Bulls didn't win the championship, does it matter if Scottie Pippen had 48 points? Does it matter? Does it matter that you had 48? No one's even going to high-five you in the locker room because we got to regroup to think, how do we win the next game? A team that is not focused on results stagnates. They fail to grow. They rarely defeat competitors, loses achievement-oriented employees, and is easily distracted. A team that is focused on results, retain achievement-oriented employees, minimize individualistic behavior, enjoy success, benefits from individuals who subjugate their goals, interests for the good of the team, and avoid distractions. Here's what a focus on individual stats look like. No goalie. Just gave up. The other team member didn't even want to play with him. He's ignoring the fact that look at this. Do you see this happening in business worlds too? Yeah, this isn't just a soccer problem. Here's what a focus on results looks like.
I always cared about team success over the individual goals, and now when I'm standing here, I can say I was right. I'm incredibly humbled to receive this honor, the greatest in all of sports, and I thank you all. Thank you.
That's the mindset. You and everybody on your team. It's about the team winning. I shouldn't win if the team's not. Let's see where our focus on results is. Last test. Action plan. What I would like you to do is now take the results of the 5 quizzes you've taken and create steps to get all of them to a 4 or 5 ASAP. Start in chunks. Which one should you start with first? Trust. Do not start working on extreme ownership or accountability or any of those, or that same one, or conflict or commitment unless you've built the trust first. Make sure that lives. Otherwise, the others aren't going to work. Okay?